Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
How are you today? How are you doing today?
Good, Gurudev.
All right. Enjoying the bliss of deity worship. Are you enjoying it? You don't have to enjoy it. So. What can we do? I don't want to enjoy.
The following is a free for download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 26, Wonderful Krishna. In this chapter, Nanda Maharaj describes Krishna's opulences to the cowherd men, as Nanda had heard them from Gargamuni. The cowherd men, unaware of Lord Krishna's power, were amazed to see his various extraordinary activities. The men approached Nanda Maharaj and told him that after seeing how Krishna, a boy only 7 years old, had lifted a mountain, and how he had previously killed the demoness Putana and had generated extreme attraction in the hearts of everyone in Vrindavan, the men had become doubtful and bewildered about how Sri Krishna could possibly have taken birth in the unsuitable environment of a cowherd community. Nanda replied by relating to them what Gargamuni had told him about Sri Krishna. Gargamuni had said that in the previous 3 ages, Nanda's boy had manifested himself in white, red, and yellow forms, whereas now in the Dwapara age he had assumed his darkish blue form, Krishna Rupa. Because he descended as the son of Vasudeva, one of his many names is Vasudeva, and he has innumerable other names indicating his many qualities and activities. Gargamuni had predicted that Krishna would prevent all sorts of catastrophes in Gokul, spread unlimited auspiciousness, and increase the ecstasy of the cowherd men and women. In a previous age, he had provided protection for the saintly brahmanas when they were harassed by low-class dacoits and there was no proper ruler in society. As the demons in the higher planets can never defeat the demigods who have Lord Vishnu on their side, no enemy can ever defeat those who love Krishna. His affinity for his devotees and in his power and opulence, Krishna is just like Narayan himself. Overjoyed and awestruck by Gargamuni's statements, the cowherd men concluded that Krishna must be an empowered representative of the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Thus, they worshipped him and Nanda Maharaj. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, "The cowherd men were astonished when they saw Krishna's activities, such as lifting Govardhan Hill. Unable to understand his transcendental potency, they approached Nanda Maharaj and spoke as follows." Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse as follows, quote, "During Lord Krishna's pastime of lifting Sri Govardhan Hill, the cowherd men simply enjoyed the spiritual bliss of the Lord's activities without analyzing them. But afterwards, when they had returned to their homes, perplexity arose within their hearts. Thus they thought, quote, 'Now we have directly seen this child Krishna lift Govardhan Hill, and we remember how he killed Putana and other demons, extinguished the forest fire, and so on. At the time, we thought that these extraordinary acts occurred because of a benediction from the Brahmanas or because of Nanda Maharaj's great fortune, or that perhaps this boy had achieved the mercy of Lord Narayan and was thus empowered by him.' Quote, but all these presumptions are false, because an ordinary 7-year-old boy could never hold up the king of mountains for 7 whole days. Krishna is not a human being. He must be the Supreme Lord himself. But on the other hand, child Krishna loves it when we coddle him, and he becomes morose when we, his uncles and well-wishers, simple worldly cowherd men, do not give him attention. He appears to become hungry and thirsty, steals yogurt and milk, sometimes plays tricks, tells lies, chatters childishly, and tends the calves. If he is actually the Supreme Lord, why would he do all these things? Don't they indicate that he is an ordinary human child? We are totally unable to establish the truth of his identity. Let us therefore go and inquire from the highly intelligent king of Vraja, Nanda Maharaj, and he shall free us from all our doubts." End quote. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the cowherd men thus made up their minds, and then they entered Nanda Maharaj's great assembly hall and questioned him as described in the following verse. Text 2. The cowherd men said, Since this boy performed such extraordinary activities, how could he warrant a birth among worldly men like us? A birth that for him would seem contemptible. Purport. An ordinary living being cannot avoid unpleasant circumstances, but the Supreme Controller can always make perfect arrangements for his pleasure. Text 3. How could this 7-year-old boy playfully hold up the great Govardhan Hill with one hand, just as a mighty elephant holds up a lotus flower? Text 4. As a mere infant who had hardly yet opened his eyes, he drank the breast milk of the powerful demoness Putana and then sucked out her very life as well, just as the force of time sucks out the youth of one's body. Purport. The word Vaya in this verse indicates youth or lifespan in general. With irresistible power, time takes away our life, and that time is actually Lord Krishna himself. Thus, in the case of the powerful witch, Putana, Lord Krishna accelerated the time process and within an instant withdrew the duration of her life. Here, the cowherd men meant to say, quote, how could a mere infant who barely could open his eyes so easily kill a very powerful demoness? Text 5. Once, when only 3 months old, little Krishna was crying and kicking up his legs as he lay beneath a huge cart. Then the cart fell and turned upside down simply because it was struck by the tip of his toe. Text 6. At the age of 1, while peacefully sitting, he was taken up into the sky by the demon Trinavarta. But baby Krishna grabbed the demon's neck, causing him great pain, and thus killed him. Purport. The cowherd men, who loved Krishna as an ordinary child, were astonished by all these activities. A newborn infant cannot ordinarily kill a powerful witch, and one would hardly think that a 1-year-old baby could kill a demon who has kidnapped him and carried him up into the sky. But Krishna did all of these wonderful things, and the cowherd men were enhancing their love for him by remembering and discussing his activities. Text 7. Once, his mother tied him up with ropes and onto a mortar because she had caught him stealing butter. Then, crawling on his hands, he dragged the mortar between a pair of twin Arjuna trees and pulled them down. Purport. The 2 Arjuna trees were thick and old, and they towered above little Krishna's courtyard. Nonetheless, they were pulled down quite easily by the naughty child. Text 8. Another time, when Krishna was tending the calves in the forest, together with Balaram and the cowherd boys, the demon Bakasura came with the intention of killing Krishna, but Krishna seized this inimical demon by the mouth and tore him apart. Text 9. Desiring to kill Krishna, the demon Vatsa disguised himself as a calf and entered among Krishna's calves. But Krishna killed the demon and, using his body, enjoyed the sport of knocking kapita fruits down from the trees. Text 10. Together with Lord Balaram, Krishna killed the jackass demon and all his friends, thereby securing the safety of the Talavan forest, which abounded with fully ripened palm fruits. Purport. Long, long ago, the powerful demons Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were born of the goddess Deity. Therefore, demons are commonly called Daityas or Daityas, meaning, quote, descendants of Deity, end quote. Dhenukasura, the ass demon, terrorized the Tala forest with his friends, but Sri Krishna and Sri Balaram killed them, just as modern governments kill terrorists who harass innocent people. Text 11. After arranging for the mighty Lord Balaram to kill the terrible demon Pralamba, Krishna saved Vraja's cowherd boys and their animals from a forest fire. Text 12. Krishna chastised the most poisonous serpent, Kaliya. After humbling him, he drove him forcibly from the lake of the Yamuna. In this way, the Lord made the water of that river free from the snake's powerful poison. Text 13. Dear Nanda, how is it that we and all the other residents of Raja cannot give up our constant affection for your son? And how is it that he is so spontaneously attracted to us? Purport. The very word Krishna means, quote, the all-attractive one, end quote. The residents of Vrindavan could not give up their constant love, anuraga, for Lord Krishna. Their attitude toward him was not particularly theistic because they were unsure whether he was God or not. But he attracted all their love precisely because as God, he is the all-attractive person, the supreme object of our love. The cowherd man also asked, quote, how is it that young Krishna feels such constant love for us? End quote. In fact, the Supreme Lord loves all living beings who are eternally his children. At the end of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna dramatically declares his affection for Arjuna and urges Arjuna to reciprocate that love by surrendering to him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his prayers to Lord Krishna, states, Etadashi tavakripa bhagavan mamapi durdaivam vidishamini hajini naragaha. Quote, my Lord, you are so merciful toward me, but I am so unfortunate that love for you has not awakened within me. End quote. Shikshastika 2. In this statement, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also uses the word anuraga. Our misfortune is that we cannot reciprocate the anuraga or loving affection that the Lord feels for us. Although we are infinitesimal and insignificant, and the Lord is infinitely attractive, somehow we do not give him our love. We must accept responsibility for this foolish decision, since to surrender to God or not is the essential expression of our free will. The Krishna consciousness movement provides an efficient, systematic program to help conditioned souls revive their original blissful consciousness, which is love of God, Krishna consciousness. The intricacies of Krishna consciousness are so wonderful that even Krishna's eternal associates, the residents of Vrindavan, are astonished by them, as shown by these verses. Text 14. On the one hand, this boy is only 7 years old, and on the other, we see that he has lifted the great hill Govardhan. Therefore, O King of Raja, a doubt about your son arises within us. Text 15. Nanda Maharaj replied, O cowherd men, just hear my words and let all your doubts concerning my son be gone. Some time ago, Gargamuni spoke to me as follows about this boy. Purport. Dhira Swami comments, quote, the words previously heard from Gargacharya awakened Nanda Maharaj to the truth about Krishna, and thus, by Nanda's constantly remembering his activities, all thoughts about their being impossible ceased in him. Now he is instructing the cowherd men with these same words. End quote. Text 16. Gargamuni had said, your son, Krishna, appears in an incarnation in every millennium. In the past, he assumed 3 different colors, red, white, and yellow, and now he has appeared in a blackish color. Purport. This and the next 6 verses, 17 through 22, are taken from the 8th chapter of this canto, in which Gargamuni instructs Nanda Maharaj about Nanda's son, Krishna. The translations found herein for these verses are based on those of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In Chapter 8, where the verses originally appear, the reader will find extensive purports by Srila Prabhupada. Text 17. For many reasons, this beautiful son of yours sometimes appeared previously as the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, those who are learned sometimes call this child Vasudeva. For this son of yours there are many forms and names according to his transcendental qualities and activities. These are known to me, but people in general do not understand them. Text 19. To increase the transcendental bliss of the cowherd men of Gokul, this child will always act auspiciously for you, and by his grace only you will surpass all difficulties. Text 20. O Nanda Maharaj, as recorded in history, when there was an irregular, incapable government, Indra having been dethroned, and when honest people were being harassed and disturbed by thieves, this child appeared in order to curb the rogues and to protect the people and enable them to flourish. Text 21. Demons cannot harm the demigods, who always have Lord Vishnu on their side. Similarly, any person or group attached to all auspicious Krishna cannot be defeated by demon enemies. Purport. Srila Prabhupada has especially indicated in this connection that just as Lord Krishna's associates could not be defeated by Kamsa, his modern day devotees will not be defeated by their demoniac opponents, nor will the Lord's devotees be defeated by the internal enemies, the lusty material senses. Text 22. Therefore, O Nanda Maharaj, this child of yours is as good as Narayan. In his transcendental qualities, opulence, name, fame, and influence, he is exactly like Narayan. Thus, you should not be astonished by his activities. Purport. Nanda here reports to the cowherd men the concluding remarks of Gargamuni, who spoke at the secret birth ceremony of Lord Krishna. Text 23. Nanda Maharaj continued, After Gargamuni spoke these words to me and returned home, I began to consider that Krishna, who keeps us free from trouble, is actually an expansion of Lord Narayan. Text 24. Shukadeva Goswami continued, Having heard Nanda Maharaj relate the statements of Gargamuni, the residents of Vrindavan became enlivened. Their perplexity was gone, and they worshipped Nanda and Lord Krishna with great respect. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that in this verse, the word anarchu indicates that the residents of Vrindavan honored Nanda and Krishna with such offerings as fragrances, garlands, and garments brought from their homes. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that the residents of Vrindavan honored Nanda and Krishna with loving offerings of jewels and gold coins. Apparently, Lord Krishna was playing in the forest when this conversation took place, so when he returned home, the residents of Vrindavan encouraged him by decorating him with beautiful yellow garments, necklaces, armlets, earrings, and crowns, and by shouting, quote, all glories to the jewel of Vrindavan, end quote. Text 25. Indra became angry when his sacrifice was disrupted, and thus he caused rains and hail to fall on Gokul, accompanied by lightning and powerful winds, all of which brought great suffering to the cowherds, animals, and women there. When Lord Krishna, who is by nature always compassionate, saw the condition of those who had only him as their shelter, he smiled broadly and lifted Govardhan Hill with one hand, just as a small child picks up a mushroom to play with it. Holding up the hill, he protected the cowherd community. May he, Lord Govinda, the Lord of the cows and the destroyer of Indra's false pride, be pleased with us. Purport. The word Indra means, quote, Lord, unquote, or, quote, king, end quote. Thus, in this verse, Krishna is pointedly calling Indra Govam, quote, the Lord of the cows, end quote. In fact, he is the real Indra, the real ruler of everyone, and the demigods are merely his servants, representing his supreme will. It is apparent from this and the previous verses in this chapter that Lord Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill made quite an impression on the simple cowherd men of Vrindavan, and they repeatedly remembered this feat. Certainly, anyone who soberly and objectively considers the activities of young Krishna will surrender to him and become his eternal devotee and loving devotional service. That is the rational conclusion of one should come to after reading this chapter. Thus ends the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 26th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Wonderful Krishna. The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 27. Lord Indra and Mother Surabhi offer prayers. This chapter describes how the Surabhi cow and Indra, having seen the amazing power of Lord Krishna, performed a bathing ceremony for him. Ashamed of having attacked Vrindavan with a violent storm, Indra secretly came before Lord Krishna offering obeisances and praised him. Indra stated that although Sri Krishna is never caught in the current of material illusion, which is born of ignorance, he nevertheless accepts a human-like body and performs various activities to establish religious principles and chastise the wicked. By this means, he crushes the false pride of those who presume themselves great controllers. Indra then went on to declare that Krishna is the Father, Guru, and Lord of all living entities, and that in the form of time he is the agent of their punishment. Satisfied with Indra's prayers, Lord Sri Krishna told him that he had stopped the Indra Jaga, so that Indra, puffed up as he was with false pride, would remember the Lord. Persons intoxicated by material opulence never see him standing before them with the rod of punishment in his hand. Therefore, if Lord Krishna desires the actual good fortune of some person, he brings him down from his position of opulence. Lord Krishna ordered Indra to return to his proper position in heaven and to serve there without egotism. Indra, along with the cow Surabhi, then performed a bathing ceremony for Krishna, using the water of the heavenly Ganges and the milk of Mother Surabhi. Indra and the cow took this opportunity to bestow upon the Lord the name of Govinda, and the demigod showered flowers and recited various prayers. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, after Krishna had lifted Govardhan Hill and thus protected the inhabitants of Vraja from the terrible rainfall, Surabhi, the mother of the cows, came from her planet to see Krishna. She was accompanied by Indra. Purport. The word Golokat here indicates the material planet called Goloka, which is filled with exceptional cows. Surabhi went joyfully to see Lord Krishna, but Indra went fearfully. As indicated by this verse, Lord Krishna had to adopt extraordinary measures to protect his Vrindavan associates from Indra's obnoxious and offensive attack. Certainly, Indra was ashamed and also nervous about his future. Having acted improperly, he had fearfully gone to seek the shelter of Lord Brahma, and who then ordered him to go take along Surabhi from the material planet Goloka planet and go see Krishna. Text 2. Indra was very ashamed at having offended the Lord. Approaching him in a solitary place, Indra fell down and lay his helmet, whose effulgence was as brilliant as the sun, upon the Lord's lotus feet. Purport. The specific, quote, solitary place, end quote, where Indra approached Sri Krishna is mentioned by the sage Sri Vaishampayana in the Harivamsa Vishnu Parva 19.3. Sa dadarsho pavishtam vai govardhana shilatare. Quote, he saw him, Krishna, sitting at the base of Govardhan Hill. End quote. From the commentaries of the Acharyas, we understand that Lord Krishna wanted to provide a solitary meeting for Indra so that he would not be further humiliated. Indra came to surrender and beg forgiveness, and the Lord allowed him to do so privately. Text 3. Indra had now heard of and seen the transcendental power of omnipotent Krishna, and his false pride in being the Lord of the three worlds was thus defeated. Holding his hands together in supplication, he addressed the Lord as follows. Text 4. King Indra said, your transcendental form, a manifestation of pure goodness, is undisturbed by change, shining with knowledge and devoid of passion and ignorance. In you does not exist the mighty flow of the modes of material nature, which is based on ignorance and illusion. Purport. The great Bhagavatam commentator, Srila Dhira Swami, has masterfully explained the Sanskrit elements of this profound verse. The Sanskrit word dharma has several meanings. Quote, A, a dwelling place, house, abode, and so on. B, a favorite thing or person, delight or pleasure. 3, form or appearance. D, power, strength, majesty, glory, splendor, or light. Concerning the first set of meanings, the Vedanta Sutra states that the absolute truth is the source and resting place of all existence, and in the first verse of the Bhagavatam, that absolute truth is said to be Krishna. Although Lord Krishna exists in his own dham, or abode, called Krishna Loka, he himself is the abode of all existence, as Arjuna confirms in the Bhagavad Gita, where he addresses Krishna as Param Dhamma, quote, the supreme abode, end quote. The very name, Krishna, indicates the all-attractive person, and thus Lord Krishna, the source of all beauty and pleasure, is certainly, quote, the favorite thing or person, delight, and pleasure, end quote. Ultimately, these terms can refer only to Krishna. Dham also refers to form or appearance, and as Indra offered these prayers, he was, in fact, directly seeing the form of Krishna before him. As clearly expressed in the Vedic literature, Lord Krishna's power, strength, majesty, splendor, and effulgence are all contained within his transcendental body, and thus attest to the infinite glories of the Lord. Srila Dhira Swami has brilliantly summarized all these meanings of the word dham by giving the Sanskrit term sarup as a synonym. The word sarup means, quote, one's own form or shape, end quote, and also, quote, one's own condition, character, or nature, end quote. Since Lord Krishna, being pure spirit, is non-different from his body, there is absolutely no difference between the Lord and his visible form. By contrast, in this material world, we conditioned souls are all distinctly different from our bodies, whether those bodies be male, female, black, white, or whatever. All of us are eternal souls, different from our temporary, flimsy bodies. When the word sarup is applied to us, it especially indicates our spiritual form, because our, quote, own form, end quote, is in fact our, quote, own condition, nature, or character, end quote, eternally. Thus, the liberated condition in which one's outward form is one's deepest spiritual nature is called sarup. Primarily, however, this term refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. All this is indicated in this verse by the words Tavadama, as explained by Sri Dhira Swami. Sri Dhira Swami has explained that here the word santam means, quote, always in the same form, end quote. Shantam can also mean, quote, undisturbed, free from passion, or purified, end quote. According to Vedic philosophy, all change in this world is caused by the influence of passion and ignorance. The passionate mode is creative, and the ignorant mode is destructive, whereas the mode of goodness, sattva, is serene and is sustaining. In many ways, this verse emphasizes that Lord Krishna is free from the modes of nature. The words Visuddha Sattvam Shantam Dvashtadashas Tamashkam Gunasam Pravaho Navidyate te all indicate this. Unlike Krishna, we change from one body to another because of our involvement with the modes of nature. The various transformations of material forms are impelled by the modes of nature, which are themselves set in motion by the influence of time. Therefore, one who is free from the material modes of nature is changeless and eternally satisfied in blissful spiritual existence. Thus, the word Shantam indicates that the Lord is undisturbed by change, and since he is free from the material modes of nature. According to this verse, the powerful flow of the material modes of nature, namely passion, stupidity, and mundane piety, are based on agrahana, which Srila Dhira Swami has translated as, quote, ignorance, end quote. Since the Sanskrit word gra means, quote, to take, accept, grasp, or comprehend, end quote, grahana means grasp exactly in the sense of, quote, to grasp an idea or fact, end quote. Therefore, agrahana here means one's failure to understand one's spiritual position, and this failure causes one to fall into the violent currents of material existence. An additional meaning of the word agrahana is derived when it is divided into the compound agrahana. Agra means, quote, the first, top, or best, end quote, and hana means, quote, killing, end quote. The best part of our existence is the pure soul, which is eternally in contradistinction to the temporary material body and mind. Thus, one who chooses material existence over Krishna consciousness is in fact killing the best part of himself, the soul, which in its pure state can enjoy Krishna consciousness unlimitedly. Srila Sridhar Swami has translated tapomayam as, quote, full of knowledge. The word tapas, generally indicating austerity, is derived from the Sanskrit verb tap, whose meaning can be summarized as indicating the various functions of the sun. Tap means, quote, to burn, to shine, to heat, and so on, end quote. The Supreme Lord is eternally perfect, and therefore here tapomayam does not indicate that his transcendental body is meant for austerities, since austerities are performed by conditioned souls to purify themselves or to acquire a particular power. An omnipotent, perfect being neither purifies himself nor acquires power. He is eternally pure and all-powerful. Therefore, Sridhar Swami has intelligently understood that in this case the word tapas refers to the illuminating function of the sun, and thus indicates that the Lord's self-effulgent body is omniscient. Light is a common symbol of knowledge. The Lord's spiritual effulgence does not merely illuminate physically, as in the case of a candle or light bulb. More importantly, the Lord's body illuminates our consciousness with perfect knowledge, because the Lord's effulgence is itself pure perfect knowledge. We offer our humble obeisances at the lotus feet of Srila Sridhar Swami and thank him for his enlightening comments on this verse. Text 5. How then could there exist in you the symptoms of an ignorant person, such as greed, lust, anger, and envy, which are produced by one's previous involvement in material existence, and which cause one to become further entangled in material existence? And yet, as the Supreme Lord, you impose punishment to protect religious principles and curb down the wicked. Purport. This complex philosophical statement by Indra may be analyzed as follows. In the first line of this verse, Indra refers to the main idea expressed at the end of the previous verse, namely, that the great currents of material existence which are based on ignorance cannot possibly exist within the Supreme Lord. The words tad deva detava and tat krita indicate that something causes the modes of nature to manifest, and that they in turn become the cause of that which caused them. In the second line of the verse, we find that it is material feelings such as greed, lust, envy, and anger that cause the modes of nature to manifest, and that are themselves caused by the modes of nature. The explanation of this seeming paradox is as follows. When the conditioned soul decides to associate with the material qualities, he becomes contaminated by those qualities, as stated in the Gita 13:22. Karanam gana sangosya sadisat yani janmesu. For example, in the presence of a seductive woman, a man may give in to his lower instincts and try to enjoy sex with her. By his deciding to associate with the lower qualities of nature, those qualities manifest in him very powerfully. He is overwhelmed with lust and driven to try again and again to satisfy his burning desire. Because his mind has been infected by lust, all that he does, thinks, and speaks will be influenced by his strong attachment to sex. In other words, by choosing to associate with the lusty qualities of nature, he has caused them to powerfully manifest within himself, and eventually those lower qualities themselves will cause him to accept another material body suitable for affairs governed by those qualities. The lower qualities, such as lust, greed, anger, and envy, are abhudalinga bhava, symptoms of ignorance. Indeed, as indicated by Srila Sridhar Swami in his commentary, the manifestation of the modes of nature is synonymous with the manifestation of a particular material body. It is clearly explained throughout the Vedic literature that the conditioned soul perceives a particular body, gives it up, and then accepts another simply because of his involvement with the material modes of nature. Karmanangana sangosya. That is, thus, to say that one is participating in the modes of nature is to say that one is accepting particular types of bodies suitable for the particular material qualities one is involved with. An ignorant bystander might have simplistically interpreted Krishna's pastimes of lifting Govardhan Hill as follows. The residents of Vrindavan were obliged by Vedic principles to make certain offerings to the god of heaven, Indra. Child Krishna, ignoring the position of Indra, usurped these offerings and took them for his own pleasure. When Indra tried to punish Krishna and his associates, the Lord frustrated Indra's attempt, humiliated him, and exhausted his pride and resources. But this superficial interpretation is refuted in this verse. Here, Lord Indra addresses Sri Krishna as Bhagavan, indicating that he is not an ordinary child, but in fact God. Therefore, Krishna's punishing Indra was part of his mission of protecting religious principles and curbing down the envious. It was not a display of material anger or of greed for the offerings meant for Indra. Sri Krishna is pure spiritual existence, and his simple, sublime desire is to engage all living beings in the perfect, blissful life of Krishna consciousness. Krishna's desire to make us Krishna conscious is not egotistical, since ultimately Krishna is everything, and Krishna consciousness is objectively the best consciousness. Lord Krishna is really the humble servant of Krishna, a fact that he is now beginning to remember. Text 6. You are the Father and spiritual master of this entire universe, and also its supreme controller. You are insurmountable time, imposing punishment upon the sinful for their own benefit. Indeed, in your various incarnations, selected by your own free will, you act decisively to remove the false pride of those who presume themselves masters of this world. Purport. The word Hitaya is significant here. Lord Krishna protects religion and chastises the wicked for the benefit of the entire universe. Foolish and faithless pseudo-priests criticize God for punishing the living entities through the actions of nature, but whether Lord Krishna punishes them indirectly through nature or directly in his incarnations, as mentioned here, he has a perfect right to do so because he is the Father, spiritual master, and supreme ruler of the entire universe. Another way he curbs down the false attempts of the conditioned souls to establish the kingdom of God without God is through his feature as insurmountable time. It is said, quote, spare the rod and spoil the child, end quote. That is a fact, and it is actually the Lord's mercy that he takes the trouble to rectify our misbehavior, although faithless persons criticize the Lord's fatherly vigilance. Text 7. Even fools like me, who proudly think themselves universal lords, quickly give up their conceit and directly take to the path of the spiritual progressive when they see you are fearless even in the face of time. Thus, you punish the mischievous only to instruct them. Purport. History is filled with examples of the supreme authority breaking the conceit of foolish men. Modern world leaders proudly fight one another, placing the common people in unprecedented jeopardy. Similarly, Indra, proud of his apparently illustrious position, dared to threaten the lives of the innocent residents of Vrindavan with terrible weapons until his arrogance was curbed by the dynamic response of the Supreme Lord. Nowadays, governments in the Western countries tend to be elected democratically, and thus the mass of people become identified with the destiny of their leaders. When the proud leaders engage in violence, the people who elected them bear the brunt of such belligerent decisions. Thus, the people in the democratic nations of the world should elect Krishna-conscious leaders who will establish an administration consonant with the laws of God. If they fail to do so, their materialistic leaders, oblivious to the will of the Supreme Lord, will undoubtedly be chastised by cataclysmic events, and the people who elected such leaders, being responsible for their leaders' acts, will share in the suffering. It is ironic that in modern democracies not only do the leaders consider themselves universal controllers, but the mass of people, considering the leaders merely their representatives rather than the representatives of God, also consider themselves as a people to be the controllers of their nation. Thus, the chastisement mentioned in this verse has become unprecedentedly applicable to people in general in the modern world. Modern man should not simply make himself a lesson of nature by falling down from his proud position. Rather, he should submissively execute the will of the all-attractive personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, Sri Krishna, and usher in a new era of sanity, tranquility, and widespread enlightenment. Text 8. Engrossed in pride over my ruling power, ignorant of your majesty, I offended you, my lord. May you forgive me. My intelligence was bewildered, but let my consciousness never again be so impure. Purport. Although Lord Krishna protected the residents of Vraja by lifting Govardhan Hill, he had not yet punished Indra himself, and Indra feared that at any moment Sri Krishna might call the son of Vivishwan, Yamaraj, who punishes impudent persons who defy the laws of God. Indra was quite fearful, and thus begged the Lord's forgiveness on the plea that he could be purified only by Krishna's mercy, that he was too stubborn to learn a good lesson through mere punishment. In fact, despite Indra's humility in this case, his heart was not completely purified. Later in this canto, we find that when Lord Krishna once took a parijat flower from Indra's kingdom, poor Indra again reacted violently against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, we should aspire to go back to our eternal home in the kingdom of Krishna, and should not become entangled in the imperfect life of the material gods. Text 9. You descend into this world, O transcendent Lord, to destroy the warlords who burden the earth and create many terrible disturbances. O Lord, you simultaneously act for the welfare of those who faithfully serve your lotus feet. Purport. This verse utilizes an attractive poetic device. Lord Krishna's descent into this world is said to be for the abhava, literally, quote, non-existence, end quote, quote, destruction, end quote, of the demonic warlords, and simultaneously for the bhava, or, quote, existence, prosperity, end quote, of those who faithfully serve the Lord's lotus feet. True existence, indicated here by the words bhava, is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. To an uninformed observer, it may appear that Sri Krishna is simply rewarding his followers and punishing his enemies the way any ordinary person might do. This specific doubt about the Lord is raised extensively in the 6th canto in connection with Krishna's taking the side of the faithful demigods against the faithless demons in a particular cosmic war. In that canto, the Vaishnava authorities clearly explained that, in fact, Lord Krishna is the Father and Lord of all living beings, and that all his activities are therefore meant for the benefit of all existence. Lord Krishna does not really cause the non-existence of anyone. Rather, he curbs the foolish, destructive material ways of those who defy the laws of God. These laws are created to ensure the prosperity, harmony, and happiness of the entire creation, and their violation is an unjustifiable disturbance. Certainly, Indra hoped that Lord Krishna would count him among the devotees and not the demons, although, considering Indra's actions, one may doubt where his loyalties actually lay. Indra was aware of this possible doubt, and thus, as we find in the next verse, he tried his best to surrender to the Supreme Lord. Text 10. Obeisances unto you, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Great Soul, who are all-pervading and who reside in the hearts of all. My obeisances unto you, Krishna, the chief of the Yadu dynasty. Text 11. Unto him who assumes transcendental bodies according to the desires of his devotees, unto him whose form is itself pure consciousness, unto him who is everything, who is the seed of everything, and who is the soul of all creatures, offer my obeisances. Purport. We could hardly construe from the first line of this verse that God is somehow impersonal but assumes a personal material body. It is clearly said here that the Lord assumes different forms according to Swachanda, according to his own desire and according to the desires of his devotees. An impersonal God could hardly reciprocate with the personal desires of its devotees, nor could an impersonal God itself have desires, since desire is a characteristic of personality. Therefore, the Lord's manifesting different forms in a personal way, responding to personal desires, indicates that he is eternally a person and manifests his different transcendental bodies as an expression of his own eternal nature. The word Vishuddha Jnana Murtaye is most significant. Murti means the form of the deity, and it is specifically stated here that the Lord's form is itself completely pure consciousness. Consciousness is the primary spiritual element, distinct from any other of the material elements, even distinct from the subtle or psychological material elements, mundane mind, intelligence, and false ego, which are simply the psychic coverings over pure consciousness. Since the Lord's form is made of pure consciousness, it can hardly be understood as a material body like the mortal bags of flesh and bones we carry around in this world. In the last two lines of this verse, there is poetic emphasis on the word sarva, quote, everything, end quote. The Lord is everything. He is the seed of everything, and he is the soul of every creature. Therefore, let us join with Indra in offering our obeisances unto the Lord. Text 12. My dear Lord, when my sacrifice was disrupted, I became fiercely angry because of false pride. Thus I tried to destroy your cowherd community with severe rain and wind. Text 13. O Lord, you have shown mercy to me by shattering my false pride and defeating my attempt to punish Vrindavan. To you, the Supreme Lord, Supreme or Spiritual Master, and Supreme Soul, I have now come for shelter. Text 14. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus, glorified by Indra, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, smiled and then spoke to him as follows in a voice resonant like the clouds. Purport. Although in this pastime Lord Krishna appears to be a small boy, the words Megha Gambhiraya Vacha indicate that he spoke to Indra with the deep, resonant voice of the Supreme Lord. Text 15. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Indra, it was out of mercy that I stopped the sacrifice meant for you. You were greatly intoxicated by your opulence as King of Heaven, and I wanted you to always remember me. Purport. According to Sridhar Swami, Indra and Lord Krishna here exchange a heart-to-heart talk. Indra revealed his mind to the Lord, and now Krishna similarly reveals his own intention. In text 11 of this chapter, Indra emphatically declared that Lord Krishna is in fact everything, and thus, according to Indra's own criterion, forgetting Lord Krishna is clearly a state of insanity. When the Supreme Lord reminds us of his supreme existence, he is not proudly advertising himself like a mundane politician or entertainer. The Lord is self-satisfied in his own infinite existence and is trying lovingly to bring us back to our own perfect existence as his eternal associates. From the Lord's point of view, even the mighty King of Heaven, Indra, is a mere child, and a naughty child at that, and thus the Lord, being a caring father, punished his child and brought him back to the sanity of Krishna consciousness. Text 16. A man blinded by intoxication with his power and opulence cannot see me nearby with the rod of punishment in my hand. If I desired his real welfare, I drag him down from his materially fortunate position. Purport. One may argue, quote, God should desire everyone's real welfare, therefore why should Lord Krishna state in this verse that he removes the intoxicating opulence of one who is about to receive his mercy, rather than simply stating that he will remove everyone's opulence and bless everyone, end quote. On the other hand, we may point out that irrevocable death occurs for everyone, and thus Lord Krishna does take away everyone's opulence and everyone's false pride. However, if we apply the Lord's statement to events within one's immediate life before death, we may refer to Krishna's statement in Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye tamam prapadyate tam satavi bhajamyaham, quote, as people surrender to me, I reward them accordingly, end quote. Lord Krishna desires everyone's welfare, but when he says here, Yasya chehami anugranam graham, quote, for one whose welfare I desire, end quote, it is understood that the Lord refers to those by who their own activities and thoughts have manifested a desire to achieve spiritual benefit. Lord Krishna wants everyone to be happy in Krishna consciousness, but when he sees that a specific person also desires spiritual happiness, the Lord especially desires it for that person. This is a natural act of reciprocation consistent with the Lord's statement, Samaham Sarvabhuteshu, quote, I am equal in my attitude to all living beings, end quote. Srimad Bhagavatam 929. Text 17. Indra, you may now go. Execute my orders and remain in your appointed position as King of Heaven, but be sober, without false pride. Purport. Lord Krishna here addresses Indra as in the plural form, Ba, because this grave instruction was meant to be a lesson for all the demigods. Text 18. Mother Surabhi, along with her progeny, the cows, then offered her obeisances to Lord Krishna, respectfully requesting his attention. The gentle lady addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was present before her as a cowherd boy. Purport. The statement here that the heavenly cow Surabhi approached Lord Krishna along with her progeny, Shva Santanai, is a reference to the transcendental cows who play with Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. Although Lord Krishna's cows are transcendental, the heavenly cow Surabhi affectionately saw them, as indeed Lord Krishna himself did, as related to her. Since Lord Krishna was appearing in the form of a cowherd boy, the whole situation was quite congenial, and Surabhi took the opportunity to offer the following prayers. Text 19. Mother Surabhi said, O Krishna, Krishna, greatest of mystics, O soul and origin of the universe, you are the master of the world, and by your grace, O infallible Lord, we have you as our master. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out here that Mother Surabhi is feeling great ecstasy as she repeats the words, Krishna, Krishna. Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill by his mystic power and thus protected the cows of Vrindavan, whereas her so-called master, Indra, had tried to kill them. Thus, Surabhi now clearly understands that it is not the demigods, but rather the Supreme God, Krishna himself, who is her real master forever. Text 20. You are our worshipful deity. Therefore, O Lord of the universe, for the benefit of the cows, the brahmanas, the demigods, and all other saintly persons, please become our Indra. Purport. The Supreme Lord is self-sufficient. He can do everything himself. The Lord appointed one of his innumerable children to the position of Indra, the Lord of the cosmic heaven. But Indra abused his authority, and now Surabhi requests Lord Krishna, the absolute truth, to directly become her Lord, her Indra. We should carefully perform our duties without false pride, and thus we will not become obsolete or embarrassed, as in the present case of Lord King Indra, who actually attacked Lord Krishna and his Vrindavan devotees. Text 21. As ordered by Lord Brahma, we shall perform your bathing ceremony to coronate you as Indra. O soul of the universe, you descend to this world to relieve the burden of the earth. Purport. Surabhi makes it quite clear in this verse that she had enough of the leadership of imperfect demigods like Purandara, Indra, and now she is determined to directly serve the Supreme Lord. Since Brahma has ordered her, her attempt to coronate Lord Krishna as her personal Lord is authorized by higher authority. Moreover, Lord Krishna himself comes down to the earth to relieve the burden of self-destructive mundane administration, and thus it is perfectly consistent with the Lord's own purpose that he become the Lord of Surabhi. Since the Lord rules millions of universes, he can certainly take care of Mother Surabhi. In fact, Surabhi wanted to bathe the Lord for her own purification, and she earnestly makes her proposal to Vishvatma, the soul of the universe, Shri Krishna. Text 22 and 23. Shukadeva Goswami said, having thus appealed to Lord Krishna, Mother Surabhi performed his bathing ceremony with her own milk, And Indra, ordered by Deity and other mothers of the demigods, anointed the Lord with heavenly Ganga water from the trunk of Indra's elephant carrier Airavata. Thus, in the company of the demigods and great sages, Indra coronated Lord Krishna, the descendant of Dashara, and gave him the name Govinda. Purport. According to the Acharyas, because Indra was embarrassed by his blunder of attacking Vrindavan, he was reluctant to worship the Lord. Therefore, the heavenly mothers, such as Aditi, encouraged him to go ahead and do so. Feeling authorized by the encouragement of demigods less offensive than he, Indra bathed the Lord. Indra discovered that the beautiful cowherd boy named Krishna is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 24. Tamburu, Narada, and other Gandharvas, along with the Vidyadharas, Siddhas, and Charnas, came there to sing the glories of Lord Hari, which purified the entire world. And the wives of the demigods, filled with joy, danced together in the Lord's honor. Text 25. The most eminent demigods chanted the praises of the Lord and showered wonderful showers of flowers all around him. All three worlds felt supreme satisfaction, and the cows drenched the surface of the earth with their milk. Purport. The word Ketava means literally, quote, banners, end quote. The leading demigods are the emblems or banners of the demigod race, and they took the lead in glorifying the Lord and covering him with an amazing shower of multicolored fragrant flowers. Text 26. Rivers flowed with various kinds of tasty liquids. Trees exuded honey. Edible plants came to maturity without cultivation, and hills gave forth jewels formerly hidden in their interiors. Text 27. O Prikit, beloved of the Kuru dynasty, upon the ceremonial bathing of Lord Krishna, all living creatures, even those cruel by nature, became entirely free from enmity. Purport. Those corrupted by a type of sophisticated cynicism may mock these descriptions of the paradisical world situation affected simply by worshipping the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, modern man has created a hell on earth in his cynical rejection of heaven on earth, which is actually possible through Krishna consciousness. The situation described here, created simply by the auspicious bathing ceremony of the Lord, is an authentic historical incident. Since history repeats itself, there is hope that the Krishna consciousness movement may again bring the world community to the brilliant reality of self-realized existence. Text 28. After he had ceremonially bathed Lord Govinda, who is the master of the cows and the cowherd community, King Indra took the Lord's permission and, surrounded by the demigods and other higher beings, returned to his heavenly abode. Purport. Thus ends the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 10th canto, 27th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Indra and Mother Subhrabhi Offer Prayers. The following is a free-for-download audiobook available on Google Drive. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 28. Krishna rescues Nanda Maharaj from the abode of Varuna. This chapter describes how Lord Krishna brought Nanda Maharaj back from the abode of Varuna and how the cowherd men saw Vaikuntha. The king of the cowherds, Nanda Maharaj, observed the prescribed fast on the 11th day of the lunar month, and then considered how to break his fast properly on the 12th day. By circumstance, only a few more minutes remained, and so he decided to take his bath at the very end of the night, although astrologically that was an inauspicious time. Thus he entered the water of the Yamuna. A servant of Varuna, the demigod of the ocean, noticed Nanda Maharaj's entering the water at a time forbidden by Scripture and took him away to the demigod's abode. In the early morning, the cowherd men unsuccessfully searched for Nanda, but Lord Krishna immediately understood the situation and went to see Varuna. Varuna worshipped Krishna with great and variegated festivity. Afterwards, he begged the Lord to forgive his servant for having foolishly arrested the king of the cowherds. Nanda was amazed to see the influence Sri Krishna exerted in the court of Varunadev, and after returning home, he described his experiences to his friends and relatives. They all thought Krishna must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and wanted to see his supreme abode. Thereupon, the omniscient personality of Godhead arranged for them to bathe in the same lake where Accra would have his vision of the absolute truth. There, the Lord revealed to them Brahmaloka, which is realized by great sages in their mystic trance. Text 1. Shri Badarayani said, having worshipped Lord Janardana and fasted on the Ekadasi day, Nanda Maharaj entered the water of the Kalindi on the Dwadasi to take his bath. Text 2. Because Nanda Maharaj entered the water in the dark of the night, disregarding that the time was inauspicious, a demoniac servant of Varuna seized him and brought him to his master. Purport. Nanda Maharaj was intent on breaking his fast during the Dwadasi day, of which there remained only a few minutes. Thus he entered the water to bathe at an inauspicious time, before the first dawn light. The servant of Varuna who arrested Nanda Maharaj is stated to be an asura, or demon, for obvious reasons. First, the servant was foolishly ignorant of Nanda Maharaj's position as the pastime father of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Also, Nanda Maharaj's intention was to carry out the injunctions of Scripture. Therefore, Varuna's servant should not have arrested Nanda on the technical grounds that he bathed in the Yamuna at an inauspicious time. Later in this chapter, Varuna himself will say, Ajana ta mamakena mudhena. Quote, this was done by my ignorant servant who is a fool. End quote. This foolish servant did not understand the position of Krishna or Nanda Maharaj or devotional service to the Lord. In conclusion, it is clear that Lord Krishna wanted to give his personal audience to Varuna and simultaneously accomplish other didactic purposes. Thus, this wonderful pastime will now unfold. Text 3. O king, not seeing Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men loudly cried, quote, O Krishna, O Ram, end quote. Lord Krishna heard the cries and understood that his father had been captured by Varuna. Therefore, the Almighty Lord, who makes his devotees fearless, went to the court of Varunadev. Purport. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that when Nanda Maharaj went to bathe in the river, he was accompanied by several cowherd men. When Nanda did not come out of the water, they began to cry, and Lord Krishna immediately came there. Understanding the situation, Sri Krishna entered the water and went to the court of the demigod Varuna, determined to free his father and the other cowherd men from fear of a mere demigod. Text 4. Seeing that the Lord, Hrishikesh, had arrived, the demigod Varuna worshipped him with elaborate offerings. Varuna was in a state of jubilation upon seeing the Lord, and he spoke as follows. Text 6. My obeisances unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Soul, within whom there is no trace of the illusory energy which orchestrates the creation of this world. Purport. The word shruyate is significant here. Shruti, or Vedic literature, consists of authorized statements made by the Lord himself or his enlightened representatives. Thus, neither the Lord nor recognized spiritual authorities would ever say that within the Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, there is the fault of illusion. Srila Dhira Swami points out that the word Brahmane here indicates that the Lord is full in himself, and that the term Paramatmane indicates that he is the controller of all living entities. Thus, within the Supreme Being, complete in himself and omnipotent, we do not find any jurisdiction of the material illusory energy. Text 7. Your father, who is sitting here, was brought to me by my foolish, ignorant servant of mine who did not understand his proper duty. Therefore, please forgive him. Purport. The word I am, quote, this one here, end quote, clearly indicates that Krishna's father, Nanda Maharaj, was present as Varuna was speaking. In fact, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that Varuna had seated Sri Nanda on a jeweled throne and had personally worshipped him out of respect. Technically, Nanda Maharaj was correct in entering the water just before sunrise. The following explanation is given by Srila Jiva Goswami in his commentary on the first verse of this chapter. After an especially short Ekadasi, measuring only 18 hours, about 6 hours of the lunar day in which the fast had to be broken, namely the Dvadasi, had already expired before the dawn. Since at sunrise the proper time for breaking the fast would have passed, Nanda Maharaj decided to enter the water at an otherwise inauspicious time. Of course, Varuna's servant should have been aware of all these technical details, which are meant for strict followers of the Vedic rituals. Above and beyond that, Nanda Maharaj was acting as the Supreme Lord's father and was therefore a most sacred person, beyond the touch of insignificant cosmic bureaucrats like the foolish servant of Varuna. Text 8. O Krishna, O seer of everything, please give your mercy even to me. O Govinda, you are most affectionate to your father. Please take him home. Text 9. Shukadeva Goswami said, thus satisfied by Lord Varuna, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord of Lords, took his father and returned home, where their relatives were overjoyed to see them. Purport. In this pastime, Lord Krishna gives a sublime demonstration of his position as the Supreme Lord of all lords. Varuna, the demigod of the seas, is most powerful, but yet he was happy to worship even Lord Krishna's father, what to speak of Krishna himself. Text 10. Nanda Maharaj had been astonished to see, for the first time, the great opulence of Varuna, the ruler of the ocean planet, and also to see how Varuna and his servants had offered such humble respects to Krishna. Nanda described all this to his fellow cowherd men. Text 11. Hearing about Krishna's pastimes with Varuna, the cowherd men considered that Krishna must be the Supreme Lord, and their minds, O king, were filled with eagerness. They thought, quote, will the Supreme Lord bestow upon us his transcendental abode? End quote. Purport. The cowherd men were filled with excitement upon hearing how Krishna had gone to the abode of Varuna to rescue his father. Suddenly realizing that they were in fact dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they joyfully conjectured among themselves about their auspicious destination after finishing their present life. Text 12. Because he sees everything, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, automatically understood that the cowherd men were conjecturing. Wanting to show his compassion to them by fulfilling their desires, the Lord thought as follows. Text 13. Lord Krishna thought, certainly people in this world are wandering among higher and lower destinations, which they achieve through activities performed according to their desires and without full knowledge. Thus, people do not know their real destination. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has elaborately explained how this verse applies to the eternally liberated residents of Sri Vrindavan, the Lord's abode. One of the fundamental philosophical principles of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the distinction between two types of illusion, Yogamaya and Mahamaya, the spiritual and material states of existence, respectively. Although Krishna is God, the omniscient, omnipotent Supreme Being, his intimate associates in the spiritual world love him so much that they see him as their beloved child, friend, lover, and so on. So that their ecstatic love can transcend the boundaries of mere reverence, they forget that Krishna is the supreme God of all the universes, and thus their pure, intimate love expands unlimitedly. One may consider their activities of treating Krishna as a helpless child, a handsome boyfriend, or a playmate to be a manifestation of avidya, ignorance of Lord Krishna's position as God. But the residents of Vrindavan are in fact ignoring the secondary majesty of Krishna and focusing intensely on his infinite beauty, which is the essence of his existence. In fact, describing Krishna as the supreme controller and God is almost a type of political analysis, referring as it does to a hierarchy of power and control. Such analysis of levels of power and hierarchies of rule is significant in a context in which one entity is not fully surrendered in love to a higher entity. In other words, control becomes visible or is consciously felt as control when there is resistance to that control. To cite an example, a pious, law-abiding citizen sees a policeman as a friend and well-wisher, whereas a criminal sees him as a threatening symbol of punishment. Those who are enthusiastic about government policies feel not that the government is controlling but rather that it is helping them. Thus, Lord Krishna is seen as a, quote, controller, end quote, and hence as, quote, the supreme God, end quote, by those who are not fully enchanted by his beauty and pastimes. Those fully in love with Krishna focus on his sublime, attractive features, and because of the nature of their relationship with him, do not much notice his controlling power. The simple proof that the residents of Raja have transcended lower states of God consciousness rather than failed to attain them is the fact that all throughout the pastimes of the Lord, they often, quote, remember, end quote, that Krishna is God. Usually they're astonished at this remembrance, having been fully absorbed in seeing Krishna as their friend, lover, and so on. The word kama is conventionally used to indicate material desire, or also spiritual desire so intense that it becomes somehow analogous to intense material desires. Still, the fundamental distinction remains. Material desire is selfish and self-gratificatory. Spiritual desire is free of selfishness, being wholly for the pleasure of the other, the Lord. Thus, the residents of Vrindavan executed their daily activities solely for the pleasure of their beloved Krishna. It should be remembered that the entire purpose of Krishna's descent into this world is to attract living beings back to home, back to Godhead. Two things are required for this, that his pastimes display the beauty of the spiritual perfection, and that they somehow seem relevant and hence interesting to the conditioned souls of this world. The Bhagavatam often states that Lord Krishna plays just like a youthful actor, and he undoubtedly engages his eternal devotees in their dramatic presentation. Thus, Lord Krishna here muses to himself that people in this world certainly do not know their ultimate destination. With an obvious touch of the facetious, he also thinks in this way about his own eternally liberated associates who were playing in this world like ordinary members of a cowherd village. Apart from the double meaning obviously present in this verse when it applies to Krishna's liberated associates, Krishna here makes an entirely direct and pointedly critical observation about ordinary people. When applied to conditioned souls who are actually wandering throughout the universe, his statement that people are acting out of ignorance and lust is not mitigated by any deeper spiritual meaning. People in general are simply ignorant, and they do not seriously consider their ultimate destination. As usual, Lord Sri Krishna is able to say many profound and complex things in a few simple words. How fortunate we are that God is not a dry field of energy, a transcendent effulgent blob, or nothing at all, as various people would have it. In fact, he is the most wonderful personality of Godhead, full of absolute personal qualities, and certainly whatever we can do, he can do better, as evidenced by his brilliant way of speaking. Text 14. Thus, deeply considering the situation, the all-merciful Supreme Personality of Godhead revealed to the cowherdman his abode, which is beyond material darkness. Purport. It is clear from this verse that the Absolute Truth dwells in his own personal abode. Every one of us tries to live as comfortably as possible, surrounding ourselves with peace and beauty. How can we, in the name of, quote, logic, end quote, begrudge the Supreme Lord, our Creator, the supremely beautiful and comfortable abode known by people in general as the Kingdom of God? Text 15. Lord Krishna revealed the indestructible spiritual effulgence, which is unlimited, conscious, and eternal. Sages see that spiritual existence in trance when their consciousness is free from the modes of material nature. Purport. In text 14, Lord Krishna revealed to the residents of Vrindavan his own abode, the spiritual planet of Krishna Loka. This and innumerable other Vaikuntha planets float in an infinite ocean of spiritual light called the Brahmajyoti. That spiritual light is in fact the spiritual sky, which Krishna also quite naturally revealed to the residents of Vrindavan. But as emphasized in text 14 and in the following text 16, the actual destination of the Lord's associates was his own spiritual planet.
Bharavatam samasitam udasundara Vandarapotikamaya Sisasvam Govinda Angani Kesha Kriyaviti Manti Shanti Panti Kalyanti Shivam Jaganti Anahachinmaya Sadhu Adipurusha Yamasundara Parayana Girivardhari Nandadula Yamasundara Girivardhari Nandadula Nandadula Prabhu Nandadula Nandadula Prabhu Nandadula Nandadula Prabhu Nandadula Nandadula Prabhu Nandadula Achyuta Kesava Dhira Damodara Govinda Gopala Hare Achyuta Kesava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Thanks, Sister. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Follow me. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Sundara, Jama Sundara, Jaya Mata, Jama Sundara, Lita Vishaka, Mata Sama Sundara, Lita Vishaka. Go through this. Radhe Sundara, Jaya Radhe Jama Sundara.
Jaya Prabhupada,
No problem. If you was remove. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Concept is so. And some fancy heights. Fancy one. What is it? That's one. What do you? I'm a boy. I'm a boy. I'm a problem. I'm a pastor. And right. That is it tomorrow. I know the blue crowd, I don't know for the everyone. And right. Oh, seven day, mommy did a program and my. I don't know. It's here. It's like once taking a boy and this is nice.
They were going to greet I don't know. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Good job. I will see you later. Hare Krishna.